Hi, and welcome to DLC's instructional videos. Today we are going to solve one-step equations. So when you have an equation, you're trying to figure out what the variable is, what the value of the variable is. You could do the steps in your head, but what we're going to do is we're going to show you steps. Now, even though you can do it in your head, we want you guys to use these steps because when you're solving more complex equations, which we call multi-step equations, it's not so easy to do in your head anymore. So let's go ahead and start. So you have some number plus 5 is equal to a negative 10. So when we solve equations, what we want to do at the end is have whatever the variable is. We want to find the value of that variable. So we want to get the p by itself. So we have to eliminate this positive 5 right here. So we always try to zero it out or eliminate it. So in order for you to do that, well, we use a negative 5 because 5 and negative 5, that's 0. But with an equation, it has to remain balanced. That's why it's called an equation. So if you subtract 5 to the left, on the left side, you're going to have to subtract 5 on the right side. It's just you got to keep the equation balanced. So you have to keep it as an equation. Otherwise, it's not an equation anymore. Okay, so then that's gone. 5 minus 5 is gone. It's 0. So you're left with p, which is what we want. And then you do the operation on the right, which is negative 10 minus 5. I owe $10, I owe $5, together I owe $15. So it's a negative 15. And that's your answer. Now here we have the variable on the right side, and it doesn't matter. You do the same thing. So you want r equals something. If it makes you feel any better, you can flip everything. You can flip the whole equation. Just make sure that everything stays as is in terms of positive or negative. So if you want to flip everything, you can put r minus 2 equals negative 7. That's the same thing as negative 7 equals r minus 2. And if that makes you feel better, you could solve it that way. But I mean, we could do it both ways. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing. I just think that's an extra step. So here we have the r on the right side. So I'm going to eliminate the negative 2. And how do I do that? By doing the opposite. Opposite of negative 2 is positive 2. But what I do to one side, got to do to the other. Got to have this equation stay as an equation. It's got to stay equal. So that's gone. Now I have r right here, and negative 7 plus 2 is a negative 5. So you could say negative 5 equals r, or r equals negative 5. It doesn't matter. Okay. So if you did flip it, it's the same thing. It might be easier, but you're still doing an extra step. So here it's minus 2, so we add 2 to both sides. What you do to one side of the equation sign, you do to the other. Negative 2 plus 2 zeroes out. So you have r equals a negative 7 plus 2. This is plus right here. So negative 7 plus 2 is a negative 5. It's the same thing. R equals negative 5. Negative 5 equals r. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just a preference. Your teacher might want it this way, but it doesn't mean that that negative 5 equals r is wrong. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, so we have some variable, some number, plus a negative 34 equals to a negative 21. So this is where we start mixing with signs, positive, negatives. This is the same thing as m minus 34 equals a negative 21. So because that's the same thing, we're going to treat this as if it were m minus 34 equals negative 21. And so because you're subtracting a 34 to zero it out, you have to add 34. Or because it's a negative 34 to zero it out, you got to put a positive 34 because that equals 0 when you combine those two. What you do to one side of the equation sign, you do to the other side of the equation sign. So that's 0. So now you have m equals to negative 21 plus 34 is the same as 34 minus 21. Well, 34 minus 20 is 14, and then minus another one is 13. So that's your answer. M equals 13. And you could check these by plugging the value back in. So what you want to do is If m equals 13, then you substitute it back in for the m. So you have 13 plus a negative 34, and you want to see if that equals to negative 21. And that does. So we know that m does equal 13. Okay, let's continue. So when you subtract the negative, let me just go over this. Let me just draw a little number line. 0, negative 1, 1. Let me just put negative 2, 2. Okay. So when you subtract a negative, subtracting means this way. So you're walking this way, but then you're subtracting negative. So you're facing this way, and then you start going backwards. So you're really going positive. So when you're subtracting a negative, what you really mean is positive. Okay, so what I used to do when I was a student, I used to just go, okay, negative, negative turns into positive, so it's r plus 8 now. That's what that turns into. So r plus 8 is equal to a negative 14. So right here, I want to eliminate the positive 8, so I'm going to have r by itself. So I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. What do I do to one side? I do to the other. Okay, so that's gone. That's 0. R is equal to a negative 14 minus 8. That's a negative 22. R equals negative 22. Okay, so we've done one-step equations with addition and subtraction. Now let's move on to multiplication and division. It's still one-step equations because you're only doing one operation to solve the answer. Okay, so here we have negative 5 times something. Times something equals 60. And what we did with multiplication and addition is we were doing the opposite. So if we were adding, we would subtract to zero something out. Or if we were subtracting, we would add to zero something out. So here, what's the opposite of multiplication? We all know it's division. So if you're multiplying some variable by negative 5, we want to divide by negative 5. But what you do to one side, you got to do to the other. And in algebra, when we do this fraction, a fraction is division. So negative 5 divided by negative 5, any number divided by the same number is 1. But we don't put 1t, because 1t is the same as t. Okay, 60 divided by negative 5 is a negative 12, and that's our answer. And then if you plugged it back in, then we would get 60. So negative 5 times a negative 12, because negative 5t, t equals negative 5, so we're evaluating negative 5t, that's the expression, for t equals negative 12. So negative 5 times a negative 12 is equal to positive 60, so that's right. So t equals negative 12. This next one's easy. See, because we're multiplying by 2, some number by 2, to get the answer, we're going to divide both sides by 2, and n equals 50. Now, you could have done that in your head. You could have said, okay, well, 2 times 50 equals 100, so I know that n equals 100. But the reason we're showing you these steps is because later on, the equations are going to be a little more complex. And so it's good to learn these steps. And then we're going to put all these steps together to do multi-step equations. Okay, so right here, we're dividing. Like I said earlier, when you have a fraction, it's actually division in algebra. So we have some number divided by negative 4 is equal to 15. So to get the answer, what's the opposite of division? Multiplication. So to get the answer, we're going to multiply both sides, and we know that we use parentheses in algebra for multiplication. So you're going to multiply both sides by the same number you're dividing. So we're going to multiply both sides by the negative 4. And the reason we do this is because negative 4 divided by negative 4 is 1. So they cancel. Now, it's not 0. No, they cancel and they make 1. But 1r is the same as r. So we're done with this side. This is what we want. We want 1r, or just r. And then 15 times a negative 4 is negative 60. 15 times 2 is 30. So then double that. That's 60. R equals negative 60. Plug it back in, and you would do negative 60 divided by negative 4, and that's a positive 15, so that's right. Okay, now here, I'm going to do this two ways. First, I'm going to show you the longer way, and then I'm going to show you a trick. Okay, so 2/3 b is the same as 2b over 3. I just want you to know that right now, and then we say equals to 12. Okay. So here, we want to get rid of the 3 first, and we knew that over here, if we want to get rid of something that we're dividing by, then we multiply both sides by that same number. So we're going to multiply both sides by 3, and that equals 1 times 2b, or just 2b. equals to 12 times 3 is 36. And 2b, because we're multiplying to get rid of the 2 or to cancel it out or to have just 1b, we divide both sides by the same number, and 2 divided by 2 is just 1b or b, is equal to 36 divided by 2, which is 18. So b equals 18. So what we did is, I know we're doing one-step equations, and what we actually did was 2 steps. It really wasn't one step, but we could actually do this in 1 step. And let me show you how. So we got 2/3 b equals 12. So whenever you have a fraction in front of your variable, all you got to do is multiply both sides by the reciprocal. And from mathematics in middle school, reciprocal means just flip it, right? So we're going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 2/3, which is 3/2. And this could cancel out diagonally, or you could have multiplied the top and bottom, which would have been 6/6, which is just 1b, or just b. So here, we all remember in mathematics, you multiply the whole number by the top, by the numerator, and then divide by the denominator. 12 times 3, 36. 36 divided by 2, 18. What you could have done, and this is going back from mathematics, multiplying a whole number by a fraction, we could have simplified diagonally. So divided by 2 is 1, divided by 2 is 6, and then we just multiply the top. 6 times 3 is 18 over 1, which is still 18. So whatever makes you feel comfortable. So that is solving one-step equations. Hope you learned something. Good luck with your studies, and bye-bye.